morning. It's June 24th, 2017. It is 5:47 in the morning. Supposed to be at the LZ at 5:45. I'm running late as usual. Had a real hard time getting to sleep last night, and I couldn't find the charging cable for the GoPro, so I had to run to Walmart in the middle of the night to go get it. And they only had a connector that was USB-C on one side and USB on the other. So, and it was a female USB on the other, so I had to find a double male-ended USB at home after I got home, so I was looking for that for forever. And yeah, so I got up late, super tired, was thinking about not flying today because of how tired I was, but after taking a shower and kind of moving around a bit, I think I'm going to be fine. Today's going to be flight number 4, hopefully. Ah! So that's a dropout. Recap for today. We did get a 5th flight, or I'm sorry, that was my 4th flight, and I only got one in today. There was 0 winds, which I was really looking forward to. I was really hoping to fly in it for the first time, because I was assuming that it wasn't gonna be as choppy up high, and it was really calm when I took off. But it took several taxis. I think I probably ran with the wing maybe 5 or 6 times trying to get off the ground. So they were all forward launches, which is where the wing's right behind you and you just run and pull the wing up behind you, instead of what we traditionally do, which is a reverse when we have a little bit of a wind to work with. It's easier to do it in reverse than forward. I never thought it was going to be that way. I always thought it was going to be easier to just do it forward. I'm assuming once you get better at it that the forwards are easier. I mean, easier to do, but also if you're used to how your wing reacts and how much gas you have to give, it's easier. My instructors were on us about getting on the gas and running really hard, and I told myself over and over to do it, but on several of my passes I didn't get on the gas enough, and my actual takeoff I did get on the gas, but I hesitated and kind of came off the gas a little bit and then back on the gas hard. And so by the time I finally got in the air, we were kind of getting later in the day, and Mike was explaining to me that we were probably running into thermals, and so my flight was not smooth as I wanted it to be. My bump tolerance is crap. All the bumps and stuff were freaking me out again, and it was like every single direction I turned my wing into, I felt like I was going into the wind. So I don't know if I was in some kind of, if I was right in the middle of a thermal maybe, or flying in it. I really don't know enough, but it was uncomfortable. It's easier, or I felt like it's always been smoother when I'm going either directly into the wind or when I'm going directly away from the wind, but more so going away from the wind. In this flight, I was just going in the wind. Every direction I turned, I was going into the wind, and turning was uncomfortable. One thing that happened today, though, that was awesome and I feel good about, is that my turns were sharper, and I felt in control, and I felt comfortable in the sharper turn. They probably weren't, they're not like acrobatic kind of sharp turns. I mean, I just was pulling harder on the toggle, letting the opposite hand toggle up or to get off the brake, because I have a tendency to like kind of hang on the brake. And anyway, my turns felt better. I say a lot, and I can't stop doing it, so I have to edit it out afterwards, and it's a pain in the ass. So there's probably a bunch of skips in this if I edit this video. Anyway, my landing was the hardest one I've had. I was coming in, missed my first landing because I didn't kill the motor. Mike and I were having some, like, I wasn't following his directions the way he intended them, and I wasn't hearing him right. So he would say back off the motor a little bit, and I would, but not enough. Or he'd say gas up a little bit, and I wouldn't gas up enough. I was doing too little bits. Anyway, on my landing, he told me to get off the gas, and I did a little bit. Then he goes to, he says go to idle. I went to idle, and by that point, I'd already pretty much overshot the runway, so I had to gas it back up, fly back up, go back into this choppy, vertexy stuff. Came around again for another landing, and when I came in for my landing, I was overshooting again, but it wasn't because of the communication thing. It was just getting used to landing with no wind. And I was coming in really hot. I have an intermediate wing. It's not a beginner's wing, so it comes in faster, I guess, is what they're telling me. Everything felt really good. Like, coming in felt perfect. And I had my hands way up. I was letting it come in hot. And then Mike tells me to flare a little bit, and I flared too much. And so as I came in, I was about 10 feet, maybe 15 feet or something off the ground, and I flared too hard on my first flare. And the first flare was just intended to slow me down a little bit, to do a full flare. But I went like half flare, and it was way too much. And I got hung up in the air, and I kind of started to go up again a little bit. And at that point, I'm too close to the ground to let go of the flare a lot. And so then the choice is to full flare, which Mike is telling me to full flare, and he's in the radio, he says you're going to drop out. I don't, at the time, at that moment, didn't know what that meant, but I made the assumption that it meant that I was going to fall out of the sky, basically, and I did. As soon as I full flared, I came to a really nice smooth stop, but I was still 5 or 6 or something feet off the ground. And once that momentum stops, you fall. And I fell all the way to the ground. It probably wasn't that far, but it didn't feel good. It kind of hurt my ankle and my knee. I managed to, once again, save my motor. It's like the first thing on my mind when I'm landing and something's going wrong. I'm totally thinking about my motor, like the whole time. I'm like, save the motor, save the motor. So I sacrificed my body to save my motor. And in hindsight, I still think it's a good decision. I don't want to have to pay for the repairs or a broken prop or whatever. So it was another day full of a lot of lessons, and I liked it and didn't like it. There's some cool parts and some scary parts. The scary parts are all just me, though. It's just my head messing with me. So I'm sure I just need to get a lot of flying hours in and get used to it, get my bump tolerance up. I just get like that dropout feeling, and it just, I think I panic, and a lot of sway and pushing around today, and it gets in my head. I need to figure out a way to fight it, get over it, and trust that everything's fine. So